This weekend we were at New Hampshire for the NASCAR Cup Series. Is it a short track? Is it not a short track? That was the weirdest argument I've ever seen in my life entering this weekend of the race. Like I said last week in my post-race review, just to get that argument over with, it drives like a short track, but in the definition terms, it's not really a short track because the short track has to be less than a mile long, but it does drive like a short track. So just, I don't know, just say it drives like a short track. Yeah, stupid arguments. But no arguments about this race, or hopefully. I don't think there will be any arguments. Probably will be. I don't know. I'll just get to it. This race was actually pretty good. It was fairly surprising. The car did not affect the aero as much as I think it would, and I think there are a few reasons for this. Number one, the PJ grip, where they added it in the third lane and the first lane, and it created a different line than most New Hampshire races. Typically in New Hampshire, you'd enter through the second lane, and you would hold that second lane. If you want to, you can, dime in the corner a little bit, maybe dive to the first lane. But that first lane was always debanked, so it never really was a great place to be, so everyone would kind of just be around that second lane, and then it maybe migrate to the third lane a little bit. The PJ grip in the third lane made the cars go up and enter the corner in the third lane, and then some guys could just cut it straight down to the bottom, cut it down to the apron, stay up there, cut down to the second lane, and it created a little bit better racing. It created a car that needed to be well through the center of the corner so it could cut through the center, and when you had the car being able to cut through the center, this was able to fight through that dirty air, and then most of the drivers are probably fighting a little bit loose off, so I credit the PJ1 grip. Usually I don't credit that thing. I don't like that thing other than Bristol. That's the only track I actually like that little grip strip being at, because then Bristol becomes Bristol again. But here they were able to put it in the third and the first lane, created for much better racing, where drivers were able to cut through the center of the corner, and dirty air didn't affect them as much as it usually does in New Hampshire. Because of that, you saw some really, really good racing where guys were just able to penetrate through that air, get to the back bumper of guys, get underneath guys, run side by side with guys as well, which was very nice to see. Maybe because of the added grip, just not a lot of guys were getting loose underneath someone else. I think it's because of the added grip. I would have to say it is, but I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, it was pretty good. I really liked it. Let's go to the actual details of the race. Stage 1 had some really good racing. You're probably going to notice I don't go through in-depth details. There were a couple cautions in the first stage, but, there was one for AJ Allmendinger who cut a left rear tire before entering turn 1 and couldn't save the car, so he brought out a caution. But there was a competition caution because of rain delays. There was a caution for debris as well. So there was cautions here and there, and strategy played a big part into where guys would pit or not pit. And two guys that were able to take advantage of this strategy were Chase Elliott and Jimmie Johnson. They were able to finish in the top 5, I think, for stage 1. I'm not sure about Jimmie Johnson. I think he finished in the top 5 for stage 1, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe he dropped out of there. I know Chase Elliott finished second, but the winner of the stage for stage 1 was Martin Truex Jr. And then we head off into stage 2, which had a pretty long run, so the beginning part of it was kind of just digging our way in, and guys like Kurt Busch were up towards the front. Guys like Ryan Blaney were trying to get up towards the front. The big three were not a big factor. Harvick and Kyle Busch were a little bit further back, but they were still there in the top 10, maybe edge of the top 5. The leader early on in the race, which was Kurt Busch, was trying to get back into the lead, and the random guy that was very surprising to me, like super surprising, probably surprising to himself as well, was Chase Elliott. He was up towards the front, and he was able to actually pass Martin Truex Jr. and then hold off Kurt Busch and win a stage. He actually won the stage. I know, it's incredible. Doesn't count as a race win, so the meme does continue along. Yeah, spoiler alert, he didn't win the race. Sorry to Chase Elliott fans, it really sucks, but the meme does continue, and I am proud of Chase. This meme is a good meme, and I don't want it to die yet, so I thank him for not ending it yet. He can end it soon, though. Chase, if you're watching this, I bet you're not, but you can end it soon, just end it at the Brickyard, before the playoffs. Just end it there. Win that race, and then the meme can be dead. There's no way in hell he's winning that race. Jesus Christ. Before I get into the last stage, I think this is where I probably should talk about Hendrick just a little bit. They had a good day. They had a good day. And I'm not even talking about the race results yet. I'm just talking about how they ran. Bowman was probably the weakest car. Byron is William Byron. He's still learning everywhere he goes. And he was running top 15. He was pretty decent. Jimmie Johnson was running top 10. Once he got the track position, he was running top 10. He didn't fall really out of the top 10. Fell out of here a little bit, but was able to get his way back up. And Chase Elliott, when he got up to second place and then got to the lead and then won the stage, he was able to stay in the top 5. So they were much better. I'm not going to act like I know what's wrong with Hendrick Motorsports unless you literally work for the team and have data access to their cars. I don't think you will know what's wrong with Hendrick Motorsports or where they are lacking speed. The only thing I can say is, and Alex Bowman said this earlier, is that their short track program looks pretty decent. Elliott ran well at Richmond, I remember, and he was able to finish second because of late race cautions. He runs well here. He ran fairly decent at Martinsville as well, and last year at Martinsville, and last year at Phoenix as well, he ran well. So just guessing that if they're better at short tracks, a track that does not really require horsepower to be your main asset, I'm just taking a guess that maybe their engine department has something to do with it. But when you go to super speedways and you put a plate on that thing, their cars are great. They're able to qualify up front, they're able to run well, so maybe it's not the engine package. You could say it's the aero package, but then again, when you go to a plate track that's so key on aero, they're doing well. So you don't know, unless you literally have access to the data. It's just a combination of things. I'm glad to see them run a little bit better. That was pretty nice, but I don't expect anything from them, honestly, the rest of the season. I just expect for them to kind of stay mediocre. I'm not expecting them to get much better. Maybe they'll get a little bit better, but I'm not expecting them to get much better. But hey, it was nice to see. Back to the race, we'll get to stage 3. So stage 3 comes along. Eric Almirola is the surprise guy that is coming up towards the front. So Elliott falls back a little bit. Kurt Busch is in the lead. Eric Almirola gets to second, and Almirola is able to run down Kurt Busch and pass him, and Almirola looked really strong here and probably was the favorite to win the race. Truex fell back a little bit. Harvick was probably 4th or 5th. Kyle Busch, again, 4th or 5th. Head into green flag pit stops, and Kurt Busch has a pretty bad miscue with Ryan Blaney, where each of them were just like, no you, no you, no you, no you, and then Kurt Busch was like, I bet, I'll go to my pit stall. That cost Kurt a lot of time. Eric Almirola is in the lead. Caution comes out. They have to go down pit road, and then Almirola has a not so good pit stop, comes out 3rd with Kyle Busch coming out 1st, and then Harvick 2nd. And then on the final restart of the race, which was around 40 laps to go, I think, Almirola spun his tires big time. He fell back to, I think, 6th place behind none other than Ryan Newman, who was running pretty well. And when you have to pass Ryan Newman, that's going to be very difficult. And at a track like New Hampshire, even though the racing was really good, it is still hard to pass. And I'm just going to touch on that hard to pass thing later in this video, but it's still hard to pass. So Almirola was not able to get back up towards the lead without the help of another caution, but he ran really well. And I'm pretty happy for Almirola to be in a competitive ride and show that he had the speed to win this race today. Just losing 2 spots on pit road and then a mistake on a restart. You know, it happens. You gotta lose some to win some. Back towards the front, it's the big 3 running 1, 2, 3 at the end of the race with Harvick, Truex, and Kyle Busch, and people on Twitter start complaining because they don't want that finishing result to happen. I thought the race was great, so maybe I'm different because I don't really care who wins the race, and it does matter who wins the race in NASCAR. A lot of fans watch the races to see who wins, so I mean, I might be a little bit different, but for the sake of the sport, it matters. So it wasn't the greatest to see Kyle, Harvick, and Truex up there again, but the longtime fans know how much these two used to hate each other, but they don't really hate each other now. There is a sign of respect. And then Harvick put the bump and run to Kyle Busch with a few laps to go, and Kyle was not probably the happiest about it, but hey, it's the bump and run. It's my favorite move in racing by far. There's nothing better than a bump and run to me. I think it's the greatest move because you're not wrecking the guy, you're just giving him a little nudge, moving him up the track, and taking the lead. Kevin Harvick goes on to win the race. Kyle Busch finishes 2nd, and it is a really good finish and one to remember for future New Hampshire races. Now, one aspect on that hard to pass thing I wanted to talk about. This is something that I think there's a misconception in NASCAR a little bit. Liam touched on this back in a video of mine way then, which was, I think it was either the X3 video, I think it was the X3 video, where we talked about passing and how it should be hard to pass. If you made it easy to pass, it doesn't make for good racing. If you made it easy to pass, if you tried manipulating them to be very close together, and then it's just kind of like slingshot, 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 easy to pass, 2 wide, 3 wide, that's not really the best racing. The best racing comes from tracks like Bristol, tracks like Martinsville, tracks like New Hampshire as well, but New Hampshire is affected with dirty air a little bit. Richmond, Dover is another one that comes to my mind. Another thing you can note, the similarities, short tracks, all less than 1.5 miles, that matters too. But a key difference between why people really like the old Bristol and not the new Bristol as much is because the new Bristol made it pretty easy to pass. You could kind of just go up to the top or go up to the bottom, and then the 2 cars are just spread out, and even though you're running side by side, it's not that much of a show. When you make it hard to pass, when you give the drivers options, you give them a few lanes to work with, not all at a short track, but a few. So like I think Richmond's a great example of this, where you could go to the middle and you could run at the bottom. This allows drivers to really work on another driver to make a pass, and that's where the best racing comes from. Where a pass is hard to make, maybe you have to give them a little nudge, maybe you have to work them for 5 or 6 laps, really get close to that quarter panel or that door. You saw a lot today how drivers were really getting on each other coming out of the corners, especially out of turn 2 and turn 4. They were just really getting close to each other, because when drivers wanted to cut through and cut down that center of the corner, they just came together. And when they come together coming out of the corner, you just get for good, solid, close racing. And that's what the drivers want. That's what the fans want. And that was just really solid racing. So a little tip for NASCAR if you just want to, probably add more short tracks in 2021 and change the car so the aero doesn't matter that much. This is the racing you get, and it's pretty awesome. To the race results, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Eric Almirola, Truex, and Elliott is your top 5. Ryan Newman, I probably, I'm not going to give him. I wanted to give him drive of the day, and I might still, but I think Almirola might deserve it. I don't know. You guys can comment on that. I think maybe because Newman's not as good of a car, maybe it should go to him. Ryan Blaney in 7th, Kurt Busch 8th, Logano 9th, Jimmy Johnson in 10th. Good finish for him. Bowman, who struggled most of the day, able to finish in 11th, so I don't know how he got there, but hey, he got there. Credit to Alex Bowman. Larson, Hamlin, William Byron, Matt Kenseth, a big surprise, just being able to run that well, and I think that was pretty cool. I think Matt Kenseth also shows that, like I've been saying about New Hampshire, I like the track because it's a driver's track. I really do like New Hampshire, because I think the driver really matters. And when Arrow's not into it, I mean, Matt Kenseth, that car is not good, and Matt Kenseth was able to get that to a top 15. That's great for him. A few more Chevys in here than normal. I think there is 7 Chevys in the top 15, and even though 4 of them are from 10th through 15th, you have 2 of them in the top, or 2 of them in the top 9, 3 of them in the top 10. Not bad for Chevy. The Stewart-Haas cars were strong all day. Clint Bowyer is not there. You'll see Clint Bowyer later in the results because he had an incident where he spun entering turn 3, or had an issue entering turn 3. You don't really know what it was. Some sort of shock issue. The left rear was bouncing up and down. And then you'll see 16th through 30th. Eric Jones, they covered him a lot today in the TV coverage. He had a little bit of a struggle. He was really loose most of the day. And then everyone else, no real surprises here. Stenhouse had an issue where he had either cut down a tire or something, hit the wall really hard, and he finishes 30th. And then the rest of the year is all 30th through 37th. One thing I wanted to say about finishing 31st, Kyle Weatherman. I have no idea who that is. Like, congrats to getting in the Cup Series, dude. I have no idea who you are, and I'm sorry. I got no clue. Keselowski finished 32nd. Haven't mentioned Keselowski because he had a brake issue, and then the brakes just left or something. I don't really exactly know what happened. Just know it was a brake issue, and he was in big trouble. Few more notes on the race. I think the commentary is one thing I should touch on this week. The commentary with Dale Jr., Jeff Burton, and Steve Letarte. There was no Rick Allen. There was no lead commentator. No one like a Mike Joy or a Rick Allen. They weren't there. So it was just kind of a crew chief and 2 drivers in the booth. And even though it was edgy at times, let's say for corporate reasons, they had some, I would say, difficulties reading off what they should read off, like for sponsors or something, or stuff like that, like normal commentary stuff you hear. But I don't really care about that. I don't think many fans do. The race was good, which really helped, but you'll notice that there was just a lot of pure enthusiasm in the booth with Jeff Burton screaming, "Oh!" and Dale Jr. just being naturally enthusiastic as he is. Like, that's just how he is as a person. And Steve Letarte being in the booth as kind of like the father figure in the booth. He's kind of like the level-headed one, but the one that's also able to give very detailed analysis, and so is Jeff Burton. And all these guys are they're able to see things that I don't think the normal lead-by-lead commentators can. They're just so good at spotting little details and giving the analysis to the race fans. I think the commentary was spot on. I think Rick Allen has done better this year in commentating. I still don't think he's a great commentator at all, but he's been doing better. However, I think this is something NBC might want to look at. This really worked, and I would test it for a few more races to see if it works more. I think most fans will say it was really good commentary. Just one pleading last wish, I would say. Please, for the love of God, find a way sometime next year to get this guy back in the booth. Please, I swear, I will do anything to get this guy back in the booth. Reach out to me. I'll give you my personal email address. I will do literally anything to get him in the booth. Anything. Name it, I'll do it. God, I love that goddamn man. Oh my God, I love Alan Bestwick. He needs to be in the sport right now. Anyways, it was a great Sunday. It was a fantastic Sunday for me personally as well. I was able to watch this guy back in contention on a Sunday. It brought back cool memories because I still remember 10 years ago watching, when I was 11 years old, watching the U.S. Open in 2008, watching him win, and then 10 years later watching him contend for another major. It was just really cool. I know you guys probably don't care, but I mean, this was just, it was awesome. So it was a really cool Sunday for me. Got to watch that in the morning, got to support and watch Tiger, and then the race gave me more than I thought it would. I didn't think it'd probably be a great race. Ended up being a great race, probably a 9.5 out of 10. Really enjoyed it, and I think we move on to Pocono next week, second race there of the season. We'll see how that goes. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Follow me on Twitter if you are not already, and Instagram if you care. I don't really post much on Instagram, but if you want to, you can follow me there as well. Comment down below what you thought of the race, of course, and I will see you guys later. Hope you're having a fantastic day, and peace out.